Hello and welcome to Picking Up the Crap for January 2014. Picking Up the Crap is a series dedicated to the hardware and software sale numbers for the NPD North American video game market. In this series, I give out leaked NPD numbers from reliable sources gathered by the gamers over at Neogaf sales thread. Sometimes there are official press releases released by the companies involved. Most of the time, our only chance to get an idea of what's going on in the video game industry is thanks to information hinted at by reliable sources who have official NPD numbers. Like always, I will state when it's an official number and when it's a guesstimation. I now present January 2014 Top 10 Games, new physical retail only across all platforms, including PC. The following sale numbers are all guesstimations from reliable sources over at Neogaf. Number 1, across 6 platforms, Call of Duty Ghost, guesstimated to sold around 330,000 copies. Number 2, NBA 2K14, across 5 platforms, selling below that mark. Number 3, Battlefield 4, across 5 platforms, guesstimated to sold around 220,000 copies. Number 4, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, across 6 platforms, guesstimated sold around 220,000 copies. Number 5, Grand Theft Auto 5, on 2 platforms, guesstimated sold around 170,000 copies. Number 6, Madden NFL 25, across 4 platforms, guesstimated sold around 150,000 copies. Number 7, Minecraft, Xbox 360 exclusive. Number 8, FIFA 14, across 5 platforms. Number 9, Lego Marvel Superheroes, across 8 platforms, all guesstimated sold below 150,000 copies. And number 10, Tomb Raider, the definitive version for Xbox One and PS4, selling 85,000 copies with only 5 days to chart. Here are your hardware numbers for January 2014. The following numbers include official press release numbers and guesstimations for, once again, reliable sources over at Neogaf. The best-selling video game hardware for January was the PlayStation 4, selling 271,000 systems. At number 2, the Xbox One, selling 141,000 systems. Coming in at number 3, and is guesstimated to have sold 97,000 systems, the Nintendo 3DS. Number 4, guesstimated to sold 53,000 systems, the PlayStation 3. At number 5, guesstimated sold 49,000 systems, the Nintendo Wii U. At number 6, guesstimated sold 48,000 systems, the Xbox 360. And last but not least, PlayStation Vita, guesstimated sold below 17,000 systems in the month of January. It's now time for Going Public, where I look at certain trends, certain stories, certain events in the industry, and kind of discuss them, give my opinion, like I said, my opinion on it. If you notice with the hardware numbers, they were really low in January. Now we all know, or at least we should know, that January is probably the worst month when it comes to software and hardware sales. There's no big releases when it comes to games, and hardware sales are usually leftover sales from Christmas, from December. So whatever's sold is people who had Christmas money and they're just now spending it, or maybe returns and they got the item they actually wanted. Still, on a historic level, this is probably the worst January that has ever been. I want to make 2 points. First, the 7th generation, and then I'm going to comment on the 8th generation. In the 7th generation, the dramatic drop of 360 and PS3 hardware numbers in January, both around that 50,000 system range. This is a console that has a great supply of games, had great content released during the holiday season, and in this month, people just basically said enough is enough. I think that the sales would have been better if both systems received some kind of price cut. At this point, you're going on consoles that have been on 9 and 8 years on the market. You can't be selling for the price you're selling them at. And as we know, those companies try to make whatever money they can off of these systems now to cover the current losses they're taking with the new hardware. Still, these numbers would be better if they received a price cut. I'm just not sure how much better they would be. Next, the 8th generation. You may have noticed that the PS4 was the best-selling system in January, selling double of what the Xbox One sold in January. While the PS4 numbers are decent, considered it's the best-selling console, from a historic point of view, they're not that great. But still, you have to consider that the PS4 is a hard-to-find console, and especially with the PS4 being sold worldwide, Sony just can't supply enough consoles for the market. But still, remember this: the Wii, in its first January, a system that also was under major shortages, sold 400,000 systems. The Wii doubled what the PS4 did. So while this is a good sign for the PS4, I'm not going to sit here and say that the PS4 is going to be the next Wii or the next PS2. It's still hard to tell if the hype for the system and people buying the system is it really that level yet. We'll find out in later months. Now, on the Xbox One side, this is pretty bad. Only selling around 123,000 systems in January. A system that's been marketed and blitzed advertisement wise all over. A system that is heavily in stock. No matter where you go, if you wanted a Xbox One, you can find one. This says there's a problem. One, the price. It costs way more than it should. And consider this: the PS3, that was the most expensive console of the last generation, in its first January, outsold the Xbox One by 100,000 systems. Think about that. The PS3 that was $600,000 at launch in its first January sold around 200 or so thousand systems. Sold way more than the Xbox One, which you can find everywhere. If I'm Microsoft, I should be kind of worried. Think about what you can do to get this system cheaper. But for now, they have one hope. Titanfall launches in North America in March. If this game is what we believe it is, then they should have no worries. But if that game don't start moving major units for the Xbox One, you can really see Microsoft doing something to try to get this growth happening. Because if the PS4 takes off, and really takes off, if the PS4 really is the new best thing and takes off, you're not catching them, especially after they have their release in Japan and officially be worldwide. In the final segment of Going Public, I want to address them real quick, pretty much give my opinion on a certain issue. After the latest Nintendo Direct, a lot of fans are quite upset with Nintendo. They feel that they're spending too much time focusing on their handheld, the Nintendo 3DS, instead of focusing on their home console, the Nintendo Wii U, which is the newer console and is in a more dire situation compared to their handheld. Now, in this segment, I want to try to break it down on why I believe they're still focusing on the 3DS. First and foremost, I'm going to try to explain how dire the situation is for the dedicated handheld device. I know people kind of understand that the industry has changed. They're not as popular as they were anymore. People are not buying them much anymore. But they feel, even though the 3DS is still a success in this new era, it shouldn't be as in the forefront of Nintendo's plans. If you listened to me earlier during the NPD Numbers hardware, from December, where the 3DS sold 1 million systems, it dropped almost 90% or more in January. It went from selling 1 million systems in December to estimated 93,000 in January. That drop is unprecedented. I know people are not buying hardware much in January. I understand that, but you go from a million to 93 or so thousand. That's just, it almost says there's a saturation when it comes to the device, meaning everybody who want one has bought one. And if you're Nintendo, who's basically has been alive as a company due to the creation and the total dominance of the handheld market, this is not a good sign for you. On February 26th, the 3DS will officially start hitting the beginning of its fourth year. It will be 3 years on the market on 26, 2014, and that will begin the fourth year. The third and fourth year of any hardware device, any console device, is pretty much their best years. It's the peak. It's the most sales that hardware will usually receive in its lifespan, due to the overall library available, the overall price point is at, and then the overall consumer awareness. At this point, you know what it is, you know what it's about, you like the price, you like the content it has, and you're willing to go in and buy it. Also, things like redesigns and price cuts play a major factor into this. The Xbox 360 has pretty much been the only console to have better sales in its later years than it did in its first years, due to a complete relaunch of the console with the Xbox 360 Slim and the Kinect device it did last generation. During Nintendo's entire existence of selling video game consoles, the handheld market which it created has been its major market, its most money maker when it comes to hardware sold, its most money maker when it comes to software sold. If you don't believe me, go to the official Nintendo site, look at the numbers, look at the software numbers. The Game Boy sold as much software as the NES, and definitely more than the Super NES. The Game Boy Advance sold more software than both the N64 and the GameCube by 100 million. The DS outsold software of the Nintendo Wii. So, the strength of Nintendo has always been the handheld market, the handheld devices. And Nintendo, who has lost in the console war many times, they barely won out against Sega Genesis. They lost during the PlayStation N64 era. They got demolished during the PS2 GameCube era. They came back with the Wii by going Blue Ocean strategy, and now currently they're losing in the 8th generation PS4 Wii U era. Nintendo know how to deal with home console hardware losses, but this current loss they're taking in the handheld market, thanks to mobile devices, is something I'm familiar with. Then throw in the fact that the hardware is not selling what Nintendo consoles usually sell, and it's projected to be maybe the worst selling handheld device they've ever created. The software sales, most of their games that are mega hits are not reaching their full potential due to the lack of hardware being sold, and then comes in the fact that Nintendo is pretty much taking care of this console themselves with the lack of huge quality third-party support. Compare the 3DS library to the DS library. Yes, the games are more sophisticated, but think about the overall amount of games and quality games from all kind of genres, from all kind of companies. This is now gone because most of the companies have now decided to make indie games, digital-only games, or mobile device games. The Western market has totally abandoned the dedicated handheld device. So if you're Nintendo coming into year 4, the peak of your handheld device, still trying to find its place in this industry. Remember, the 3DS in the United States is still almost 2 million behind the sales of the almost handheld solely Japanese gaming region. With the change of the industry and the very slow start of the 3DS, Nintendo had to pull pretty much all the tricks out of the bag. Think about it. In this 3-year span, going on 4 years, we've already seen a price cut, a new model upgrade, and then a price reduction model, where during the DS years we saw new iterations and remodels once every 2 years. The original DS launched in 04. The DS Lite didn't appear till 06. The DSi didn't appear till 08, and then the DSi XL didn't appear till 09. Where for the 3DS, we've already seen the 3DS, the 3DS XL, and now the 2DS. Nintendo has no other things they can do to try to spur growth in this industry. And so, if they can't pretty much get everything they can out of this market, if they leave anything on the floor, besides the losses they're already going to have due to the market changing, that's even less money they're going to potentially make. And if we look at the past numbers, that solely owning of the handheld market is probably Nintendo's backbone. It's what's keeping them, what's allowing them to have home consoles that don't reach their potential. So, in my opinion, I believe Nintendo feels it's best to get what they can out of an industry, out of a market they still have a large ownership in, than to focus on something that they were pretty much going to lose anyway due to decisions they made, going back into a red ocean market. I will also like to add this. If you haven't noticed already, due to the 3DS slow start, due to the overall change in the market, Nintendo has already shot all their big guns when it comes to the 3DS library. Everything that could possibly sell to move hardware and move major software has been released. At this point, going to year 4, the peak year, Nintendo has nothing else besides a newly developed Super Smash Bros. 3DS game to spur growth or interest into the console. The current library that's going to release this year has been bringing over a third-party developer game, new IP, Bravely Default, and then releasing a Kirby game, which Kirby is usually a third-tier carrier when it comes to sales, and now Mario Tennis. What else is there for the 3DS this year besides Smash? Your next big hit for Japan is coming later this year in Monster Hunter 4G, but that's not coming to the US market until 2015, and that game alone is not going to do anything for the 3DS because Monster Hunter is a niche series. So right now the 3DS is sitting in this place where it had all the big guns, anything and everything that could move units has been released. Your Mario Kart, your 3D Mario, your 2D Mario, your Animal Crossing, your Pokemon, and then the total just loss of interest when it comes to their touch generation games, your Brain Age, your Nintendogs, those kind of games which sold tens of millions in a DS lifespan now are barely hitting 1 million each. The 3DS year 4 is going to be pretty, it's going to underachieve. And if it's that bad in year 4, year 5, the final year before the new system come out, it's going to be even worse. So if Nintendo, at the current rate, the 3DS might not even hit PSP worldwide numbers, which by Nintendo standards is a total failure. So think about that, and then ask yourself, what will you do if you really need this product to be successful? If you really need the revenue and the profits this device brings to your company. Like I said, this is just my opinion. I'm not trying to say Nintendo should focus on 3DS only and forget about their home console, the Wii U. I'm just saying this from a business point of view, or this is a common sense point of view. If you're going to pick a fight, pick the battle you have a better chance of winning or surviving in, than pick the battle that you most likely may lose in or die. For Picking Up the Crap, January 2014, this is the one and only Jodecideion. I'll see you next time. Take care.